Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uborech osher oseh shalom uboreh et hakol Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uborech osher oseh shalom uboreh et hakol Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uborech osher oseh shalom uborech osher Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uborech osher oseh shalom uborech osher oseh shalom uborech osher oseh shalom uborech hakol Yadadai-dai-dai-dai, yadadai-dai-dai-dai, yadadai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yadadai-dai-dai-dai, 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 If my voice were louder, if my body stronger, I would run through the streets, crying peace, peace, peace. Yada-da-da-da-da, yada-da-da-da-da, If my voice were louder, if my body stronger, I would run through the streets, crying peace, peace, peace.
Shana Tovah, everyone, Shana Tovah, Mituka, a sweet, sweet, healthy, and safe new year, 5782. I think the theme of this new year already is humans plan and God laughs. Because we had hoped last year, and we were here virtually with basically no one in the sanctuary, with all those recordings, you remember last year, we thought, next year, not only in Jerusalem, but next year in the sanctuary. And the truth is, God willing, we will have some aspects together here in the sanctuary. But tonight, there is no one physically present. But we want to let you know that we really feel your presence. We look out here at these seats, and we can see specific spots where a lot of our regulars over the years like to sit. Some of you who are new to the congregation, you would find your place here too. We welcome you as well. Many of you are, I hope, huddled around your computer screens and TVs and various things, maybe even your phone, wherever you are. Some of you might be not even in Raleigh, out of town. We're gathering you together. We're holding you in our souls and our hearts. We're going to pray. And just like last year, for those of you now, the good news is you're now a little more experienced. Actually, maybe we're a little more experienced. Is that prayer, New Year, 5782, God, the Torah, repentance, and tshuva happens regardless of location. This is holy time. These are holy words. These melodies are holy prayers. And we will lift them up regardless, with you, together as one community and really throughout the entirety of the Jewish world. So instead of kvetching and being upset, which is legit, we're going to be grateful. Grateful we can daven, grateful we're here, grateful we're healthy, and to hold on to the souls who are not here in body but are here in spirit as we welcome the creation of the world, 5782.
So as we gather across space and time, in this moment on the cusp of a new year, so many of us are thinking about the year that's passed, not only where we were last Rosh Hashanah, but the tremendous journey we've been on as individuals, as a community, as a nation, as a global community. And I hope and pray that our tefillot, our prayers, will be a place where we can hold everything. We can hold the gratitude and the joy. Hopefully there were moments of joy this past year. But we can also hold the disappointment. We can hold the sorrow. We can hold the worry. I pray that as we daven together, as we pray, that truth, emet, is our beacon, is our guide, so that whatever is true in your heart, in your soul, allow it to rise. Allow it to rise so that we can fully release the year that's passed and start fresh in a new year ahead.
Amen.
So we're going to continue to really warm up not only our voices but our hearts to land in our seats, wherever you are, with the traditional melody and the traditional words of Hashivenu. We ask God to help us return, to come home, to remember who we really are. And as we come closer to the truth of who we are and who our souls long to be, that is where I believe we meet holiness. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Ben Ashu Tovah, Ben Ashu.
Now open our machzorim. Many of you, I hope, have actual copies with you. If not, there should be a link here connected to the live stream you can click on. We're going to rise together on page 5. We're going to begin our evening service with the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam vaed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam vaed.
You may be seated, everyone. We'll continue now with the first blessing before Shema Yisrael, prayer of God's oneness, focusing on creation, page 5. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'vo ma'av yavoim.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני.
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo.
המעריב והרביב.
Amen. Page 6, we continue the blessing before Shema Yisrael, at the top, focusing on God's love. Avat olam beit Yisrael amcha.
ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני.
Baruch Shemo.
אוהב עמו ישראל.
Amen.
שמע
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם בבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך, ושוכבך וקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפו בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. Continue page 7. והם שמוע תשמעו ששנוכים מצווכם שם שחוויתם להם. Moshe Namod the base when I'm seat C. I know it's seat C. Call meets for the
Adonai Elechem
Amen. Page 8, 9 lines from the bottom. Umalchuto.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם,
Moshe Miriam
ובני ישראל
Lechanu Shira V'Simcha Rabba Ru'olam Mi Kamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi Kamocha
נדר בקודש
Nora Lo
מלכותך ובניך בו קיים בפני משה זהינו ויאמרו
Adonai Imlo Le'olam Va'ed
ונאמר כיפת אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך שמו
גאל ישראל
Amen. Page 9 at the top, prayer for peace and shalom. Hashkiven. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu shalom. Amidenu. Takninu mitzvah tova mefanecha. Fasasata mefanecha.
ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני
ברוך הוא ברוך שמו הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל Amen. We rise together on page 10. Tiku v'chodesh shofar b'kesel leyom chagenu, ki chok l'Yisrael hu mishpat le'Elohei Yaakov. Sound the shofar on our feast day on the new moon when it is hidden, for it is Yisrael's law, a decree of the God of Yaakov.
Tiku v'chodesh
shofar b'kesel leyom chagenu, ki chok l'Yisrael hu mishpat Elohei Yaakov.
יתקדש שמי רבה
Amen.
ואתה תברח ירתה וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ויומכון ובחיי תכל בית ישראל
בגלה בזמן קריב
יאמרו
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורא לעולם ומהוויה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה ברכו לילה לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה
תושבעתה ונאמתה
תמירן בעלמא ואמרו
Amen. So, Chevra, it's time for our first silent amidah of our Rosh Hashanah and of these Yamim Noraim. Begin on page 11. It's customary to take your feet together and face the arc towards Yerushalayim. But wherever you are, if you know where Jerusalem is, it's okay. According to the Mishnah, wherever your heart is going. Your Yetzway is going to Jerusalem, so direct your heart towards Jerusalem if you can. So face east if you're able, but if not, open up your heart. Maybe if it helps to lift, you can imagine being in Jerusalem. For some of you, imagine being here in the sanctuary. And some of you had the chance to be back, thank God. Some of you, it's a place of great meaning. It gives a sense of literally sanctuary, place of uplift, looking at these beautiful windows. It does that for me, and I know for Rabbi Jenny as well. So imagine your place and look at these prayers as a chance for opportunity for reflection, looking at your life, looking at your year, as Rabbi Jenny noted. But also let your heart soar. Let your own prayers, as the Talmud says, your own prayers, your own supplications have to be a part of this, or it's as if you didn't pray at all. So take time now for silent amidah, traditional prayers, pages 11 through 20.
בספר חיים ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה ניזכר וניכתב לפניך אנחנו
Bo Shemo
Oseh
HaShalom. Amen. Kaddish Shalem, page 19.
Yitkadosh Shemei Rabbah
Amen. Alma Divrach Iruteh
V'yamlich
Malchuteh Ha'echon B'yom Echad
Uvchayedecho Beit Yisrael
Ba'agala U'bizman Garim Ve'imru Amen. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah
Mevarach le'olam ul'olmei almaya
Yitbarach v'yishtabach
V'yitpa'or v'yitromam v'yitnaseh
Say v'yitada v'yitale v'yitalal Shemei Kedusha B'richu le'ela le'ela
B'kol
B'kol
birchata
Shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Miran B'alma V'imru Amen Kabel Tzeloton Vo'oton Decho Yisrael Kadam Avuhon Di Bishmaya Heru Amen Amen Yehi Shalom Rabba Min Shemaya
L'chaim
Aleinu
aleinu
ve'al kol Yisrael Ayah 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 Amen. Ose shalom b'imromav u'yaseh.
Shalom aleinu.
Ya 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 ya
Ve'al kol Yisrael
v'imru
Amen. Yalla yalla yalla
ya 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 Shana Tovah, everyone. A Ketiva Tovah, good writing, a good year. Please God for all of us. A big oive. It's hard to believe we're here again like this, but you know, as I mentioned before, we plan, and there are we try to plan, and laughter is made in our faces, but it's good to be together, even over the technology, and we want to say how much we are grateful that we have the chance to be together with all the help of everyone who's made this possible, those especially with the technological abilities and various things, and our staff, and everyone who's come together to make this happen. But tonight I want to talk about, something, hopefully a little inspiration, something that will bring us a kind of kavanah to focus throughout these holidays, maybe something to lift us up, because I know a lot of us are feeling much more of an oiveh in our soul, in our neshama right now, than in lots of gavalts, and not necessarily perhaps as simchadik and festive as we'd like. So here's what I want to start off with. First of all, we want to thank you so much for your concern and your prayers for healing, particularly for Rabbi Jenny. As you can see, she is back, thank God, in the flesh. She's shining and amazing, and her davening is lifting us, and her kavanot. And we know you've been with us. We know you've carried us in the past, and you carried us now. And this undoubtedly has been a surprising and unpleasant and unexpected experience, one we never hoped for, and hope, please God, don't hope in anyone else ever. But the question that you all asked me, or asked us in general, is how are we doing? How are we staying afloat? How do we deal with the fact that Rabbi Jenny, who's the, I say the CEO of our entire mishpacha, was gone for 10 days in isolation. All of us were in quarantine. Some of you know my mother-in-law had a false positive, which I guess completely mishogana and all over the place because she was kind of CEO number 2 in place in our household. And when she had to be isolated, thank God she's fine. It ended up being a false positive. But we really were undoubtedly put into a tizzy. And again, we know for a fact that members of our congregation too. People have had breakthrough infections. It's been challenging. And everyone has struggled this past year. So the question people asked me and asked Rabbi Jenny, how are we faring? How are we doing? And how are we staying afloat in this time? And, the word that came to mind to me, it's one is we were literally restricted. We were constricted. And the word for Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim literally means Metzer Yam, or Metzer, it's Ayim at the end, but it's kind of a doubling. Metzer or Mitzar means a narrow place, a straits, a place of constriction. And we literally felt we were kind of like in Egypt in the sense of being enslaved. I mean, look, we had lots of blessings and lots of privilege, okay? But we felt a sense of constriction and fear and anxiety. And the question you asked us, what got us through, or what's getting us through, how are we doing it? So I want to say undoubtedly, knowing you all are with us was huge. Knowing this amazing holy congregation was huge. Prayer, and Rabbi Jenny this as well, even in her isolated room, praying, my praying, the idea that we have a prayer practice, a connection with the power beyond us, helped carry us through. Study of Torah, study and learning with others via, thank God, FaceTime and telephone and all that stuff. Thank God that carried us through. Meditation and presence. Even I know Rabbi Jenny's case, she did practice yoga at times on a mat in her room when she was feeling well enough. We had practices in our life, conditions, but ultimately your loving support. But I want to say what truly carried us through, and now I'm speaking about myself now, what carried me through and what I hope will carry you through. Ultimately, when things were difficult, particularly we got that test of my mother-in-law and thought, oy vey, it's going through the house, okay? And all that anxiety and fear came up. What kept me? And I will tell you the MS. What kept me in addition to all those blessings, knowing you were praying for us, holding us, prayer, Torah study and learning, is our history. I looked at our Torah, I looked and remembered our story, and I kept reminding myself like a mantra, like a shiviti, that we've been to difficult places before, and we've made it through. We've been here before, we can do it again. And when I say that, been here before, I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about. We could go back to Pharaoh, Paro. We could talk about Haman, boo. We could talk about the exiles of our people from our land, destructions of our temples, anti-Semitism throughout the ages, the Inquisition, the Crusades, obviously, sadly, the Holocaust, the Shoah. We've been through, in a way, it all, even prior pandemics. And I was inspired knowing that all of us, including us here, but all of you too, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And if they could get through, if I dare say, much, much worse than we experienced, then so too, with God's help, we can make it through too. And there's one story in particular, which I told a little bit early this year, but I want to retell it again, because it so inspired me, and I pray it lifts your neshamas too. And it's one that was very particular to this year, 5781, past year we'll say. And it came about in Israel, a live situation this year with the new president. So a lot of you, I know you follow Israeli politics, some of you very, very closely, like me and Rabbi Jenny, and you know that there's a new government in Israel, new parliament, led by Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. And that probably was the big news out of Israel this year, in addition to other challenges and wars and battles, things like this, and the pandemic that they led, etc. They've led the world in pandemic relief and things like this, but that's not the issue. There's a new president in Israel. And some of you know the president of Israel for many years, for 7 years, was Ruby Rivlin, who led beautifully. It's an honorific position, somewhat of a political figurehead. It does have some specific roles, certainly with ambassadorial and kind of diplomatic roles. It has also roles in forming governments and giving the mandate. You go Google it after the holiday to find out the role. But the main thing is the person who was selected this time by the Knesset, by the Israeli parliament, was a political leader from the Labor Party, from Avodah, Mifleget Avodah in the past. And his name was Yitzhak Herzog. Yitzhak Herzog himself, when he went to be sworn in front of the Knesset, by the Speaker of the Knesset, he put his hand and kind of pledged, with a kippah on, by the way, the Tanakh he used, the whole Sefer, not just the Torah, 5 books, but the whole thing, the prophets and the writings, was from his grandfather, Lava Shalom, also known as Rabbi Yitzchak Halevi Herzog. And he told this story I'm going to tell right now in front of the parliament, in front of the world. Why he chose that Tanakh? Well, that Tanakh was held by his grandfather. His grandfather, who was first born in Poland, but eventually fled, emigrated to the United Kingdom, and became the chief rabbi of Ireland during his lifetime. And eventually, after the Holocaust, actually he went and moved to that before the Holocaust, but after the Holocaust, he eventually went and made Aliyah, and he was the first chief rabbi, Ashkenazi chief rabbi of the state of Israel. First he was under the mandate of the British time, and then he became the first Ashkenazi chief rabbi. And one of his first jobs when he got there and he was serving as the leader in Israel of major religious import was the government sent him back to Europe with one task. What we knew, what they knew, what all knew, was that so many Jews, thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions, in order to save their children, our people gave up babies, toddlers, kids to righteous Gentiles, non-Jews, who saved our kids. And a big holder of that were Catholic institutions, monasteries, nunneries, Catholic schools. I'm not here to give a whole lecture in history of the Catholic Church and the Holocaust. Many of you know it's complicated. Pope Pius was not perfect. But there were undoubtedly many, many leaders in the Catholic Church, individual priests, and families who saved Jewish children. And according to the story he told, and he held that Tanakh as he traveled to Europe, and went back to find these children. They believed at that time there were up to 10,000 Jewish children still being held in Catholic institutions in Europe, in Poland, and other places. The story he told, some say it's apocryphal, or maybe a little exaggerated, but I believe that its core, it is true. That he went up to one particular monastery, one nunnery, and met with the Mother Superior. Said to her, I've come back with my Tanakh, and I've come here before you to thank you and to bring back our Jewish children and bring them to the land of Israel, to Eretz Yisrael, to Medinat Yisrael, to the state of Israel. And one particular female leader, Catholic leader, said, Rabbi, you are free to take them home. It's been our, in a sense, privilege, our honor to save them. But here's the problem. In these orphanages we have here in a particular place, we have thousands of children. We don't have records of them. There were so many displaced persons during the war, after the war. We don't know which ones are the Jewish children. Many of these children were given to us 3, 4, 5 years old. Now they're 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever. We don't know who they are. They have been raised in our Catholic community. They've been practicing our prayers. You are free to take them if you can find them. And according to the story he told, he stood up and gathered in one particular place 500, 1,000 kids in a kind of dining hall at one particular monastery. He stood up at the front like a rabbi. All the kids looked at him, didn't know who he was, what he's doing, this big beard, a big kippah. And he stood up at the front, held his Tanakh in his hand, in his arm like this, and chanted, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Now Now, many of you know that there's a tradition. We do that here at Beth Meyer in the preschool. That children, when going to sleep, there's a custom for parents to chant that Shema Yisrael upon going to sleep. And immediately when he offered that chant of the Shema Yisrael, according to the story he told, children by the dozens came forward. Gives me chills telling it to you. Crying, saying, Mommy, Papa, Abba, Ima, Tati, where are you? That Shema Yisrael was so deep inside of them, and Rabbi Herzog knew it, that when he chanted it, they came out and came forward. And he turned to the Mother Superior and said, these are the Yiddish Kinder. These are the children I'm bringing home. Now, I tell you that story for a few reasons. Rabbi, of course, the current president held that Tanakh to say how much we hold on to our people, including our kids. First of all, in the basic pshat of that story, there are a lot of people in our community, including parents, legitimately are very worried. How are we going to keep Yiddishkeit, Jewish life, the shul, education alive during now a second year, Jewish year, of pandemic? What I want to say about that story is that Am Yisrael Chai, we will not give up. We will continue to bring in these kids wherever they are. And the same thing for adults. We have been here for thousands of years, and God willing, we'll be here for thousands more. We know what it means to be struggle and to be disparate and separated, but we also know what it means to gather back together, and we will do it again. But the second thing, and this is what inspired me during the most difficult times in this past 10 days, 2 weeks, is it reminded me that our people has been through much, much worse. Our people has struggled, been oppressed. They've attempted to decimate us, take our children from our arms. But we never gave up. And we cleaned up the pieces, and we gathered together, and we kept Jewish life going. In the darkest moments, when we worried about my mother-in-law, when we worried about Jenny, when we worried about you, in addition to all your thoughts and your love and your prayers, I remembered Rabbi Herzog and his Tanakh and those kids, and I remembered that the Jewish people lives Am Yisrael Chai, and that with the power of our history and the power of great leaders and the power and gift of righteous Gentiles who helped and risked their lives to help the Jewish enterprise continue, we could get through that, then we can get through this. So in this Rosh Hashanah, we have lots of ois and lots of gavalts, and no one's more frustrated than us that there's nobody in this sanctuary right now. Believe me, nobody. More disappointed, frustrated, angry, sad, disappointed. But we can all be inspired knowing our people has found a way forward in much more difficult circumstances than this. And we can do it again. With God's help in this year, let us hunker down. Let us remember the shoulders of the giants that came before us. Let us remember those kids that came to Rabbi Herzog. And let's remember that we too, someday, will gather all the kids and all the adults here in this sanctuary, and we'll look back and say, we too stood strong and courageous as our people has done for 2,000 years. May we, with God's strength, make this happen. Amen. together, page 24, Kiddush.
So as we prepare for Kiddush, we have a minhag, a custom here, which is to chant the words from Psalm 23, Kosi Rivaya, my cup overflows. And I've always loved this phrase because it holds so much, right? We think about this psalm, which we often say when we're moving through grief, when we've lost someone that we love, that our cup overflows. And so I want to say, as you imagine, or perhaps you even have your Kiddush cup close by, but you can also just imagine it in your hands. And you imagine that your cup is overflowing. We take a moment to hold all the blessings, but also to hold all the worries, all the overwhelm, all the anxiety, all the sorrow, all the disappointment, and all the joy, and all the gift that it is to be alive on this new year, 5782. And so as Rabbi Eric and I chant these words, Kosi Rivaya, we're not only going to hear our voices, but with our spiritual imagination, which we have been able to truly cultivate over this past year, we're going to hear all of your voices, wherever you are. We're going to hear your whispers, we're going to hear your hearts, and not only yours, we're going to hear all the voices of the people who are not here to stand with us on the cusp of this year. Those in generations past and those who we've lost this past year. We're going to hold all of their voices and bring them into our prayer of Kiddush, in which we thank God for this moment in time. Kosi Revaya, Kosi Revaya, Kosi Revaya, Kosi Revaya,
Kosi
Revaya, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'am, v'rohanu mikol hashon, v'kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'atiten lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'yahava, et yom hazikaron hazeh,
Yom Teruah, Mikra Kodesh, Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim.
Kivanu bacharta v'otanu kitashta mikol hamim, udvarcha emet v'kayam lahad. Baruch atah Adonai, melech hakol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael, v'yom hazikaron.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו
עמנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. לחיים טובים. Main standing page 25, עלינו לשבח. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו גויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגר עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שאמונות השמיים. כן נקווה לך ותקן עולם חוש.
ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
We turn now to page 26. We invite those who are in mourning or observing a yahrzeit in this Rosh Hashanah. Invite you to rise for Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, page 26. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra kirutei, bi'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה. דאמירן בעלמה ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה בחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו amen. You may be seated, everyone. Continue now with Psalm 27 on page 27.
So we're going to chant the lines Achat Sha'alti, about 7-8 lines down. This is the psalm of the entire month of Elul leading up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We recite it traditionally twice a day. And this line is among the most beautiful. We say that there's just one thing that we ask. One thing that we ask is that we can sit, that for a moment we can rest our burdens down. And we can remember that we always, always dwell in God's house. And God's house is not just the sanctuary, although it is extraordinary and special and beloved to all of us. And God's house is not only your home, which is also sacred. It's also these bodies that have carried us through this incredibly challenging year. It's this house of this earth, this planet, that we share with all living beings. We ask this one thing, that we can sit in God's house with a big capital H, and that we can remember that we are really not separate. That there is, despite the brokenness in this world, there is so much beauty, there is so much noam, we say in the psalm. And that for a moment we can sit and we can hold that beauty and that strength and that resilience that is both all around and deep inside. Achat sha'ati beit Adonai, achat sha'ati ota avakesh, achat sha'ati beit Adonai, achat sha'ati ota avakesh. Shivti, shivti, beved Adonai. Shivti, shivti, kol yemei hayai. Shivti, shivti, beved Adonai. Shivti, shivti, kol yemei hayai. Lachazot benoam Adonai. Ulageh lachazot benoam Adonai. Ulageh shahadi me'et Adonai, achat shahadi ota avakesh.
Tov, Shana Tovah, everyone. Shana Tovah Metuka, sweet new year. A couple quick announcements here. Again, we thank you so much for your support and for your love. Thank God Rabbi Jenny is returned back to health. May it only continue. All right. Tomorrow morning, things are, of course, been switched around for various reasons, so follow closely. From 9 a.m. to 9:45, we have a tent in the parking lot. It'll be a family service designed for everyone who'd like to come. By the way, everyone's invited to come, but specifically, of course, for children and their families. From 9 a.m. to 9:45 outside in the tent. When that concludes, we will then begin at 10 a.m. immediately with a Torah service here in the sanctuary. Rabbi Jenny will be outside. I will be here leading it with others like Kathy Kaplan, Henry, and others. All those who have honors and are comfortable coming in, which we appreciate, which we fully understand, and have no judgments, of course. We'll then have immediately to a Torah service, the shofar service, opening, Torah, etc. After all that is concluded, we believe by approximately 11:15, we will then take a small break time, and then we will have the beginning of davening. Everyone will be invited to leave. We'll continue with Rabbi Jenny and I here leading the service and the prayers with Shacharit, the early morning prayers, with the Shema and various things, and, of course, a sermon that I will offer. There'll be speeches and opportunities to hear from our president, Keith Satisky, as well as a past president, Jay Schwartz, about our Open the Gates fundraiser opportunity, annual campaign. Listen up for that as well. Big mitzvah opportunity there. And we'll conclude our service at that time, we believe, by approximately 12:30-ish. We'll call it a Jewish 12:30. Okay, approximate 12:30. Once all of that is complete, we then will gather again, those that are comfortable. We hope you'll join us at 5 p.m. here at the shul for Tashlich, the placing of, letting go of our sins on the waters, and blowing of the shofar then as well. So you hear the shofar here in the shul in the morning, but the mitzvah is actually to hear it itself with your ear. So if you're able to come later in the afternoon, we invite you to come. I think the weather will be nice. You'll be able to hear the shofar as well. We're going to walk on the greenway down here at Six Forks, basically where Six Forks hit in Snooten Road. If you'd like, you can park here at the shul. We'll walk together carefully, or you can park closer towards Six Forks as well. Remember, then, second day of Rosh Hashanah, instead of the morning service in the tent of the family service, will be a meditation opportunity with Rabbi Jenny, and our service will continue just as we described tomorrow. The same thing happens on the second day. Remember, on Sunday is Kever Avot at the Raleigh Hebrew Cemetery at 10:30 a.m., the opportunity to visit with loved ones, whether they're buried there or in other places. We'll offer prayers of El Malei Rachmim and the mourners Kaddish. Not going to say yet too much about Yom Kippur. Stay tuned for more information on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur will happen. I guarantee you that. It's going to come. But I can tell you 100% is look out for the canned food drive, which will take place before Kol Nidre. You can help drop off your cans here at the shul anytime during the time, 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur itself, these will be given to the Jewish Family Services. You also can contribute tzedakah there as well. And remember, the show speaker this year is Grace Kaplan, so stay tuned for more information about Yom Kippur as it comes forward. With that, we conclude our service with Yigdal on page 28.
Yigdal
Elohim Chai ve'ishtama V'yeinei El Metziudo Echad V'yein Yachid Yichudo Ne'elam V'gam Esol Le'achduto Ein Lo Demut Haguf Ve'ein Lo Narog Elav Kedushato Karbon Lechol Davar Asher Nira Rishon Ve'ein Reshi Lereshito Hino Adon Olam V'chol Nosar Yoreh Gedulato U'malchuto Shefa Nevuato Nedano El Asher Segulato V'tifarto Lo Gam B'Yisrael Kemo Sheol Navi U'mabit Et emunato Torat Emet Natan Le'am Moel Al Yad Nevio Ne'eman Beido Lo Yachaliv Ha'er Velo Yamir Dato Le'olamin Le'zulato Zoveh Ve'yodea Sedainu Mabit Lesov Davar Begad Amato Gomer Leish Chesed Mifalo Noden L'Rasha Hara Kerishato Isla Leget Yamin Meshigeinu Lifto V'chageget Yeshuato Neitiv V'hayel Berachado Baruch Adonai Shem Tehilato Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Kol Ha'olam Kulo, God, the God of our ancestors, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, the God of the entire world, on this day, when we begin and honor the creation of the world, help us, O Holy One, to remember all those people who have suffered this past year, especially under COVID. Help to lift their hearts and their souls. Help all those who are struggling with COVID themselves, who are struggling with illness. Help all of us, give us strength, give comfort to the bereaved, all in our congregation, amongst the Jewish people in our nation, those who've lost loved ones, and were not given the opportunity to mourn in a normal, natural way. Give them love and strength. Give love and strength in your healing power to all those in need of healing, all those who have found themselves lonely or isolated, all those who have been afflicted with illness. Give them strength and give them your love. Let them know they're not alone. O Holy One, give your strength, your fortitude, your gavura to all those who protect us, all those who serve our country, all those who serve the state of Israel, all those who protect our holy congregation. Help them to feel your strength and your love, your confidence in them in this time of struggle. Help us, O Adonai, to bring peace, to bring justice, to continue that journey, to make your world better, to fix, to repair, with your help, to be inspired, to never give up. O Holy One, help us to remember our ancestors who've been through difficult times before and have found ways to serve you, to learn your Torah, to pray, in the most difficult of circumstances imaginable. Help us to tap into their power and to do it and to celebrate and to be grateful again. Adonai oz lemo itein. Adonai varech et amav shalom. May God bless our people and all peoples with the power of peace. The Shanah, Tovah, tekatevu v'techatemu. May all of us be, please God, written and sealed in the book of life. Shana Tovah Amitunka.
Ya
Ya ya ya ya
Shana Tovah.
Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uborech osher oseh shalom uboreh et hakol Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzer or uvorech osher oseh shalom uvoreh et hakol Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzer or uvorech osher oseh shalom uvorech osher Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorech osher oseh shalom uvorech osher oseh shalom uvorech osher oseh shalom uvorech hakol Ahava verachamim chesed v'shalom Ahava verachamim chesed v'shalom L'Adonai